Hearty welcome to each one of you. First of all, I congratulate the organizers for such an international conference. Indeed, the theme, Buddhist philosophy and its role in inculcating values to the youth, is very relevant for our times. As many religious leaders say, now in the world, the youth population is the highest. And if they change, if they have proper values, and the world will be a better place. So I wholeheartedly thank the organizers also for having given me this chance to reach out to many youths through this conference. Next slide, please. Next slide. The life and philosophy of the Buddha and inspiration for modern youths. Lord Buddha, second enlightened and ever great personalities of Indian history, or rather the entire human history. His life, philosophy, psycho-spirituality, and self-realized morality is an eternal wisdom bank. His entire life, inclusive of his teachings, is a valuable source of inspiration for all human beings. Next slide, please. But to keep to our theme, I will talk more how his teachings and philosophy and life is useful, relevant for our modern youths. Modern youths are unable to find purpose in their life. They are confused and where to go, what kind of values to take up in their life, and so on. And this seminar, I hope webinar would help to all those who are listening to this conference. Next slide, please. Though a lot of incidents from his life and many aspects of his philosophy and teachings could be explained, since our time is short, I highlight a few points and significant events and important teachings so that we could deliberate on the given time, the important aspects of his life and teachings. One thing that we can remember is when he was an infant, his father was participating in a ploughing festival, and the maids left him under a rose apple tree, and being alone, the Buddha, as an infant, cross-legged and meditated deeply and experienced a high level of concentration. This, next slide, please. And this would be of very important to him, because to find the truth, he would go around to many places, many gurus, and he would even do extreme penances, austerities to find the truth. But though he would master a lot of skills in meditation, he was not satisfied with what he achieved with the help of those gurus, especially Alara, Kalama, and Udaka Ramaputta. Finally, he would remember his skill of meditating, which he did in his younger days as a child, and using that, following that method, finally he would come to arrive at the truth. Here, how it can be useful for a modern youth is that it's said God has given each child, each youth, lot of talents, gifts, and resourcefulness, and the youth should accept that and be aware of the talents and fall on them, count on them, have self-confidence, self-esteem to achieve their goal in their life. So this is one instance, one lesson that all the youths of the world can listen to fall back into their own skills and talents and capacities for their search to find meaning in their life. Next slide, please. So next, what we look at in his life is in this aspect. Some scriptures say that each youth is a masterpiece, and we have to realize that, and we can by realizing that we can contribute a lot to the world. And the next aspect we can see in his life is the compassion of the Buddha. That when his cousin Devadatta, please go forward, switch on, move forward with the slide. The compassion of the Buddha. So Devadatta had next slide, please. A shot swan, a bird, and he was about to kill that, but the Buddha got hold of that. Next slide, please. Got hold of that bird, and he treated it and healed it. So here we see the Buddha's close, merciful call to heart towards animals, birds. And it's very interesting to note that the Buddha was born under a tree, got enlightenment under a tree, and finally achieved his parinibbana under the tree. And he always went around forests, trees, meditated himself and thought sitting under trees. And he also asked people to meditate. Next slide, please. Meditate under the trees. So he was more close to the nature always. So nowadays, scientists and religious leaders invite us to care for Mother Earth, our common home. So it's a lesson for all of us youths and every human being to care for Mother Earth. And next, we come to know something about Buddha's life, is goal in our life. Nowadays, what kind of values or goals the parents inculcate into our children and youths? Good degree, job, money, comfort, status, and power. And our youths are running after. When I talk to the youths in Bihar, they say we want a government job. Why? Less work and more money. And so our youths are sometimes, or most of the time, to go after a power, money, position. And what about next slide, please? So though he was rich, royal, he left everything. His house, he had 3 palaces and a good wife, a lot of musicians and all comforts. He left that and to look for the truth that would liberate the human beings. So here for the Buddha thought outside the box. So he was not comfortable all the luxuries that we had, but he wanted to find meaning in his life, and very especially the causes, the reasons that cause sufferings for us. So from this, the youths are challenged today. Buddha, who had everything, luxury, comforts, left that and find the truth. So for us, it's a challenge for the youth. The Buddha questioned our existential problem, decaying, aging, and death. Whereas many of us don't question this. So his life, when he questioned concretely and critically, is an invitation for the youths to question about, please move on the slides, lesson for the youths, that slide. Not to accept, the youths are now called to not to accept the existence of poverty, ill health, illiteracy, corruption, division, inequality in all fields, superstitions, gender discrimination, terrorism, sexual exploitation of children and women, stress, tension, etc. Please, next slide. Move on to the next slide. So the youth are invited to question like the Buddha and search for solutions. What can I do to my country to be more prosperous? How can I prevent terrorism and so on? So, so the Buddha gives the true values. Please take the slide. It says the true values. The slide with the heading, the true values. By renouncing money, wealth, comforts, why pleasures, power, and position for the sake of finding the truth that leads to wisdom, peace, happiness, welfare of all beings, and total liberation, Gautama showed to the world what are more valuable than wealth, power, and money. So, according to him, more valuable than gold are the values of searching for truth. Please move ahead. The slides. The values of searching for truth, wisdom, peace, happiness, compassion, caring, daring, and giving up all that chains us. So, this is the value the Buddha is teaching us. Are our modern youths ready to make these values their own? That's a big question. And next is, please go to next slide, not to be satisfied with mediocrity. The Buddha in his life, next slide please, had achieved a lot of meditation skills through the gurus, and they gave him equal status. Like myself, with the master of this community, you are also equally a master. Be here because you have achieved what we have achieved. But the Buddha was not satisfied. Though he had attained some success, he said, I have to find the truth of sufferings and the way to prevent suffering. So he went ahead. So this is another, next slide please, another lesson for the youth, not to be satisfied with the success we receive halfway. To keep on searching, until we find the goal that we want to achieve, the meaning that we are seeking, the purpose we are seeking. So this is the lesson and the value the youth can learn. And after leaving those gurus, the Buddha did extreme modification. And he was not eating, drinking, and even stopped his breathing. The desire. This is the next slide, please. The extreme self-mortification. So he was ready to do everything possible. And people thought he was going to die. But later he realized this extreme mortification is not good for to find truth. So next slide, please. So he took a middle path, a moderation in all that we undertake. Usually when we think about youth, go to the extreme, whether in fights, or in pleasures, or in spending money, or spending time. And the Buddha is teaching a value, moderation. In moderation, in all that we do. Next slide, please. Now we come to his philosophy. When people of his time believed in God and other external deities and rituals for their welfare and salvation, the Buddha taught Attahi Atmana Natho, Kuhi Natho Parasiya, Atmanava Sundendana Natham Labati Dullabham. This is he said, next slide please, one is one's own savior. who else could be protected? Who else could the protector be? If one controls oneself, she would gain a mastery which is hard to gain. So he was, when people were putting blame on others and God and destiny, Buddha said, you are responsible. Buddha is inviting us and the youth to take responsibility for ourselves and not to blame others or rely on others for our sadness or happiness or for the status of our life. So when we rely on ourselves, take responsibility, self-control is very important. Next slide, please. Self-responsibility and one's capacity. And the Buddha also would say in Dhammapad 165, Attanava katam papam, Attana sankilasati, Attana akatam papam, Attana iva sujati, Suddhi asuddhi pachatam na anno annam isodaya. The meaning of this is by oneself, evil is done. It's by oneself, one is defiled. The same way, it's by oneself, one is purified. And therefore, whether it's purity or impurity is depends on oneself. Here, not only responsibility the Buddha gives, please, but he also points out the capacity that the youth and we can purify ourselves. We need not depend on external rituals and dipping the Ganges or offering pujas, sacrifices, but to relying on our own capacities. Next slide, please. Cause and effect. So the Buddha's main discovery is paticca samuppada. That is the origination, dependent origination. That is all things that are happening in this world have causes and conditions. So he said, this being so, that is. And this arises, that too arises. This not being so, that is not. And this ceases, that too ceases. For everything and anything, there are causes and conditions. So the main contribution of the Buddha is that there is cause and effect in physical world, biological world, everybody could understand. But when it comes to our morality, happiness, happy life, people said it's our destiny. It's all in God's hand. No, Buddha said no. In our cause and effect theory operates even in our psychology, moral, and spiritual world. Therefore, we can be masters of our happiness and life. And this is an important lesson for all of us and the youth. Now, the Buddha and the psychologist. Now, the main contribution of the Buddha to humanity is discovery about the nature of our mind and its role in our happiness as well as sufferings. And in 2,500 years back, there's a great contribution. And it's psychotherapy. And next slide, please. And Buddhist psychotherapy is also very important. And today, modern scientists and psychologists in Europe and America, they are referring to Buddhist scriptures to find more about our human mind, about mindfulness, meditation, and its benefits. Therefore, youth, those who want to be psychologists and psychotherapists, can very well take up the study of Buddhist psychology and psychotherapy. It's a very good guide and is indeed a scientist of our human mind. Next slide, please. And in the beginning inaugural session, Mr. Patnaik talks about stress and tension among the youth and Buddha solution for that. Next slide, please. Stress and tension. And we can say a lot about Buddhist psychology, but no time. The one main insight is our thoughts affect our emotions, he said. So negative thoughts lead to negative emotions and positive thoughts lead to happiness. And that this is what he said in his Dhammapad. It's one of the important scriptures of the Buddhists. And their first stanza is, mind precedes all mental states. Mind is there. Please, next slide, please. Mind is their chief. They are mind rod. With an impure mind, a person speaks or acts, suffering follows him like the wheel that follows as a foot of the ox. The same way, if a person talks or acts with pure thoughts, then goodness and happiness follows him. Now, so with these insights, the Buddha says further, Nahi virana virani sambandhida kadachanam. Avirana cha sambandhida avirana avirana cha sambandhi. Iso dhammo sanatano. The meaning is hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. So this we see in his cousin Devadatta and his relationship. As you know in his story, Devadatta was very jealous of Buddha's growth and quality, and he was trying to harm Buddha various ways, even to kill. But the Buddha was very compassionate. If he also hates back his cousin, it will not be over. He was compassionate, forgiving. He never reacted angrily with Devadatta. This shows Buddha himself, and this is a good example for all the youths. Very many times we say, but quickly enter into fights, group fights, club fights, class fights, communal fights. And here, the Buddha is teaching the youths and all of us, hatred will never end hatred. Therefore, meditation is his psychotherapy. That how to take care of our mind, to watch our mind and to remove the negative aspects there, negative thoughts there, so that it can be cherish positive thoughts and be happy and wholesome. So meditation is nothing but mind and heart development training. So it's a training program. And in that, 4 steps are very important. Knowing our mind, purifying our mind, shaping our mind, and freeing our mind. Next slide, please. So he would say his own son to meditate, sit under the tree. And, youth are sometimes taken up to, are there infatuated and attracted towards beauty, pleasures, and all that are glittering in the world, and they are misdirected in their life. Sometimes even youth forget their goal and they are caught up with these worldly attractions. And the Buddha advises Rahula, see the permanent value of things and people is what is, and he says, whatever you see, girls, beauty, or wealth, are they? If it's not permanent, if it is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, can it be called as mind? So the Buddha was talking about wisdom, to meditate and arrive at wisdom, to cling to only those things which are helpful to us, useful to us, have permanent value. And this is a good value for our modern youths. So, therefore, meditation is the biggest contribution that the Buddha has done to the world. It's a must for, next slide, please. It's a must for children. Next slide, please. For youths and adults to free ourselves from tensions, stress, and negativities. So here in Bodhgaya, we try to introduce concentration starting from 2nd standard. So because it enhances the children's and the youth's concentration, focused study, and character formation too, to remove the negativities in their life and to promote positivity and to arrive at the truth about their life and the meaning and true purpose of their life. So there are some photos. We give personality and leadership development books for the youth in colleges, universities, and mainly value orientations. The values of the Buddha are great sages of our country who give us values which liberate us, which make us more human and divine. And we have a meditation program for youths, personality development program, value orientation, and there is a meditation for school children. Uh, and we also do peace education workshop for teachers. And it is interesting now B.Ed, M.Ed courses have peace education as a subject. That is to train the teachers how to be a model, how to be compassionate, how to be merciful, and so on, to give more importance to moral and spiritual development of children and youths. And please move on the slides, move on the pictures. Can come to the last picture. And so I was happy to know about Rajiv Gandhi Youth Institute of Youth Development. This is what we are trying to do here. And happy I came to know Madam Vasanthi Rajendran involved in this program. And I would be very happy that in the future, if we can collaborate with our intelligence mission program and Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Youth Development to orient our youth.
Thank you, Father Soosai Lawrence, for that presentation on life and philosophy of Buddha, an inspiration for modern youth, wherein you have, slightly different from the other presentations, where you have given how the life itself of Buddha. There is a message of Buddha, but the life itself, his life itself, is a message through the different phases, as a son of in a palace, a prince in a palace, and then as a father in various stages, as a friend. He has been There has been lessons which youth can actually, there are a lot of lessons for the youth to learn from the life of Buddha itself. So that was very excellent. And now we will go for the questions. If there are any questions, anybody who would wish to ask a question to Father Lawrence can unmute their mic and ask him. Meanwhile, I'll just there are some questions in the chat box. Father Lawrence, if I can put them across to you.
There is a big last about the true values for the youth. If you want, I can show that at the end. The Ram Karkanta can show that is true success. That if you have time. Now I am ready for questions.
Okay. Actually, I think you have answered this question in your presentation, but however, it will be good to again reiterate the same. Bea Hamrauni, this is from some other country. He asks, how can youth avoid conflicts and keep their inner peace? I think there was a slide on this in your presentation on how the youth can avoid conflicts. But Father, if you can again answer his question.
The problem is most of the time our mind is scattered and worried about this thing, that thing. It goes to the past or the future, never in the present. And therefore, the present problems are not practically seen by the youth. So when they meditate, meditation is knowing what is happening within the thoughts, anxieties, worries. And then when we are aware, much of it we'll see this unnecessarily we are worrying. And therefore, and if they know, psychology also shows if somebody knows that I am angry, immediately he or she has the capacity to overcome that. This is how more and more self-awareness and removing the negative thoughts and negative feelings will better make that person more peaceful and joyful.
Suresh Kumar, so the another question from Ajit Hansraj. Um, to import question from general youth, if the Buddhism is considered as a part of Hinduism. I think this question has been answered by our previous speakers. So we'll move on to the next question. Yeah, by Dr. Sonam Chukki. How can we build peace in an extreme religiously driven conflict in the world?
First of all, religion is every religion is meant to make us more human, more divine. But when people don't follow their own religion, conflict comes. So, one way of resolving conflict is to coming to know one another. First of all, study his or her own religion and to follow it truly. And then take initiative to know the other. Then the other is taken as considered as the enemy, the unknown and stranger. Then the conflict comes. When we, by knowing the other, we know they are also like us. They also have good values like us. They also have their problems. When we all know that we are in the same boat, then people of different religions, nations can walk together, supporting one another. This is what I see. Any other question, please?
Ma'am.
Yes. Dr. Sharmista?
Yes, I just want to ask a question if I'm allowed.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, there is a lot of uncertainty among youths, Father, and with COVID, it has grown day by day. So, what does the philosophy give us, which actually we can overcome the uncertainty which the youth is facing today?
Yes, uncertainty is mainly connected with the future. What will happen. The main thing is the youth, if they look at the problems here and now, their own problem and societal problem, and try to address that. Yeah, the current problems will multiply into bigger in the future. So if you can take care of our present problems, present issues, and future is what do you call explanation. There is no future. Future is a statement. Actually, when the future comes, it will become the present. Okay, the only time we have in our hand is the present. Past is gone, and the future is yet to come. Only present. You know to handle the problems in the present, then they will be able to know the uncertainties of the future.